Before the accolades, before the billion-dollar valuation, there was a blizzard, a slammed door, and a girl clutching her dreams in the snow. They called it rebellion, she called it a blueprint. And now, the empire they once denied her? She built it brick by brick. The day my grandfather disowned me, Boston's infamous winter unleashed its full fury. Not a gentle snowfall, but a merciless blizzard. Howling winds, ice crystals, drifts piling against the brownstone steps as he hurled my duffel bag onto the sidewalk like unwanted memories. No granddaughter of mine will abandon our legacy for some second-rate engineering position, he roared, clutching the acceptance letter I'd left on his mahogany desk at the family law practice. His words reverberated through the high ceilings of our Beacon Hill residence. We are a dynasty of legal minds, Julia. Judges, prosecutors, partners, not glorified builders. I watched my bag disappear into the snow, knowing my architectural designs, the beginnings of a revolutionary eco-friendly structural system, were safely backed up online, but the sting remained. That bag contained my tablet, my sketchbooks, and the last vestiges of security from the only home I'd known since my parents died. "Grandfather, please," I said softly. "The junior position at EcoStruct is just an entry point. I have a vision, a plan." "A plan," he scoffed with cutting precision. "Julia Harrington, you had a trajectory. A senior associateship at the firm. The arrangement with Daniel Wells. A respectable future. Not this frivolous construction fantasy." My grandmother hovered in the hallway, wringing her hands. "Daniel's family invited us to dinner on Friday. He still wishes to speak with you." "I ended the engagement because I need to pursue my own path, Gran. I don't want to marry into prestige. I want to create it." His expression hardened into granite. "You're discarding a law degree from Harvard to draft blueprints and be a nobody." If he'd bothered examining my business proposal, he'd have realized that position was my gateway into EcoStruct's development division so I could learn their limitations, so I could design something superior. But he never listened. "Leave," he commanded, voice like December frost. "You want to chase pipe dreams? Fine. Just don't expect us to provide a safety net when it collapses." I glanced at my grandmother and whispered, "I'll call you." He slammed the door with finality. She's no longer my granddaughter. I stood in the snowstorm, retrieving my sodden bag with numbed fingers. That day I lost my family, but began constructing my future. For years of clandestine designing. For years of pretending to care about precedents and legal statutes while quietly perfecting my sustainable architecture algorithm had culminated in this moment. I looked at my grandmother, still framed in the doorway, one hand pressed against the wood, seemingly torn between following me or retreating inside. "Gran?" I asked quietly. "Won't you say anything?" She glanced toward the interior where grandfather was, undoubtedly in his book-lined study, nursing a brandy. Self-righteous and unmovable. "Perhaps," she murmured. "Perhaps in a few weeks when you recognize this mistake." Then she gently closed the door. I turned back to the house I'd grown up in with its colonial facades, cobblestone walkway, and the gleaming Harrington and Associates town car parked in the circular drive. Then I climbed into my weathered Subaru and drove away from the future they'd prescribed for me. My new apartment wasn't impressive. A converted attic in Boston's struggling Dorchester neighborhood with temperamental heating and draft-prone windows. But it had reliable internet and just enough space for my drafting table and computer setup. The junior designer position at EcoStruct paid minimally, but compensation wasn't my motivation. Each day I created standard building renderings and adjusted specifications. But behind that drafting software I was observing, analyzing, mapping the weaknesses in their sustainability approach, how their innovations succeeded and failed. During evenings, I developed my algorithm. What began as simple spreadsheet calculations during law school study breaks had evolved. Now it was a dynamic structural optimization model that could identify inefficiencies and resolve them before they materialized into construction flaws. 3 months later, I received a text from Daniel. "This rebellion has gone on long enough. My mother says your grandfather might reconsider. We can still salvage the engagement. Just abandon this architectural delusion." I deleted the message. Blocked his contact. 8 months after my departure, it happened during a routine sustainability assessment. My program identified a critical structural vulnerability in their flagship design, something their renowned engineers had overlooked. Discreetly, I documented it. 3 days later, I was summoned to a sunlit office overlooking the Charles River. Dr. Abrams, the director of innovation, leaned forward. "Can you explain how you discovered this?" I met his gaze directly. "Actually, I've been developing a new architectural optimization system. I can demonstrate it." 4 hours later, I walked out with my first development contract. Modest, but entirely mine. Sufficient to leave the junior position and dedicate myself fully to creating what I believed in. That evening, I emailed my grandparents with the subject line, "Update." The message was simple: "I'm not returning." The reply came from my grandmother's account, but every syllable resonated with my grandfather's authoritarian tone, junior designer to project consultant. Hardly the legacy we envisioned for a Harvard Law graduate. "Catherine inquires about you at dinner. She remains unattached." I didn't finish reading. Simply closed the message and returned to my designs. The following year dissolved into 3D renderings and sleepless nights. My optimization system evolved, becoming more sophisticated, efficient, and substantially more effective than anything in the industry. That initial contract with EcoStruct created opportunities. Then came inquiries from Autodesk, then Foster Plus Partners. Then a discreet email from someone at the United Nations Sustainable Development Division. I left the drafty attic behind for a functional apartment, then a comfortable townhouse, then an elegant loft in Boston's emerging innovation district. I hired 1 engineer, then 5 more, then a team of 30. Harrington Sustainable Systems was established, but I kept my identity concealed from every public filing. Let them believe some anonymous architectural prodigy was behind it. I had my reasons. My grandmother's messages arrived sporadically, mostly invitations to legal society functions or articles about Catherine Wells's nonprofit endeavors. I archived them all without reading. Meanwhile, acquisition offers accumulated, corporate buyouts, investment proposals, 9-figure purchase bids. I rejected everyone. I wanted autonomy. I earned autonomy. As speculation circulated about the mysterious founder of Harrington Sustainable Systems, I appointed a charismatic COO named Marcus Chen to represent the public face. He was ideal for media interactions and investor presentations. I remained behind the scenes, designing, testing, refining. One morning, my executive assistant, Damon, knocked and entered my office. "MIT Technology Review is persistent. They're finalizing their 35 under 35 feature. Direct them to Maya," I replied, attention fixed on my screen. "They don't want Maya. They're publishing with or without your cooperation." I paused. How did they confirm? Probably that summer intern from EcoStruct. Her NDA had loopholes. I leaned back, visualizing my grandfather's expression the day he forced my belongings into the blizzard. All those messages. All those warnings. "Fine," I conceded, "I'll participate. But I have one condition." 3 weeks later, I sat in my minimalist office holding an advance copy of MIT Technology Review. Across the cover in bold typography, Julia Harrington, 28-year-old founder of Harrington Sustainable Systems, youngest self-made architecture billionaire revolutionizing global construction. My phone illuminated with my grandmother's name. I watched it ring, then directed it to voicemail. If you've ever been dismissed, undervalued, or told your aspirations were impractical, remember this story. Because Julian's journey continues, and so does yours. The Technology Review article published on a Monday. By Tuesday afternoon, Harrington and Associates had lost 4 of its most prestigious corporate clients to firms utilizing modern sustainable building practices. By Wednesday, they'd lost 7 more. My phone hadn't stopped vibrating. My grandmother had called 42 times. My grandfather is 25. Even Daniel Wells had attempted connecting on social media, undoubtedly after hearing his father's development group lost 3 projects over sustainability concerns. Thursday morning, Damon appeared at my office doorway. "Julian, your grandparents are in the lobby." I looked up from my workstation. "Here? Both of them?" They brought reinforcements, he added carefully. The Wells family, senior and junior. Of course they had. This wasn't reconciliation. This was strategic damage control. Desperate, last-minute damage control. They aren't scheduled, I said, straightening my tie. No, but your grandfather tried intimidating the reception staff with legal terminology. Your grandmother appears distraught. I turned toward the window. 2 buildings now displayed Harrington Sustainable Systems signage. Send them up, I decided. And activate Protocol Eleanor. Protocol Eleanor, my personal favorite, was named after my mother. The only one who believed in my architectural dreams. She secretly funded my first design software before her death. Now her name was connected to a live visualization of every structural improvement we'd implemented in the past year. As the elevator ascended to the 28th floor, screens throughout my office synchronized. Efficiency metrics, sustainability achievements, real-time comparisons between conventional buildings and our optimized structures. The doors parted. Grandfather entered first, clutching the magazine like a legal brief. Grandmother followed, eyes reddened and anxious. The Wells family trailed behind, stiff and uncomfortable. How dare you? Grandfather thundered. How dare you humiliate this family like this? Humiliate? I inquired, expression composed. By creating a $3 billion company that prevents firms like yours from losing clients? Please elaborate. You deceived us, grandmother lamented, all this time pretending to be some junior draftsman. I never deceived anyone. You simply never asked. I glanced at Daniel. Too preoccupied forwarding articles about Daniel's initiatives or arranging dinner invitations to notice what I was building. Daniel stepped forward, smiling rehearsed. Julia, surely we can realign our perspectives. Merge our interests. A merger? I echoed, then gestured toward the illuminated displays. No one bypasses the assessment, I said. Not even family. I smiled. Calm. Deliberate. We're not just potential clients, grandfather snapped. We're your family. You owe us. I rose from my chair methodically. Do I? I circled my desk, confronting him directly. Let's discuss what I might owe you. Should we begin with the day you threw my possessions into the snow? Or perhaps when you informed everyone at the Commonwealth Club I was experiencing a breakdown? Or possibly when you attempted to have my trust fund frozen on grounds of mental incompetence? His face darkened. That was for your protection. You mean protecting a future you designed, I replied, pressing a control on my desk. The screens behind me transitioned, now displaying HSS stock performance, market valuation, and global implementation statistics. The figures pulsed, impossible to dismiss. You mean this? I indicated. The enterprise valued higher than every law firm in the city combined, the system revolutionizing 70% of new construction globally, the technology behind a new $4.5 billion international climate initiative? Grandmother sank into a chair. Her cashmere scarf twisted in her fingers. But why conceal it from us, she whispered. Would you genuinely have listened? I questioned, crossing my arms. I distinctly recall grandfather declaring I wasn't his grandson anymore, that no Harrington worked with hammers and nails. That was 4 years ago, she murmured. We were concerned. No. You were concerned about appearances, about my broken engagement with Daniel and what the social circle would think. Daniel advanced, attempting to salvage his composure. Julia, we can move beyond that. Let's have dinner. Discuss possibilities. I pressed another button. A contract materialized on the wall-sized monitor. This is Harrington Sustainable Systems Standard Consultation Agreement, I stated evenly. If your firms want our expertise, you'll execute this. The consultation fee is $125,000. Non-negotiable. $125,000. Mr. Wells exclaimed. That's highway robbery. Actually, it's remarkably reasonable, I countered. Ask the clients you've lost. I returned to my desk. Damon will transmit the documentation. Standard processing requires 4 to 6 weeks. Weeks. Grandfather exploded. We're hemorrhaging clients now. You should have considered that before dismissing sustainable design as beneath your dignity. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an investor presentation. Julia Alexander Harrington, grandmother pronounced, her voice trembling. This conversation isn't concluded. It is, I confirmed, nodding to the security personnel near the elevator. They'll escort you downstairs. Oh, and that preferred parking space at Harrington and Associates? You might consider reassigning it. The Harrington name carries more significance in architecture now. After their departure, Damon brought in fresh tea. Your grandmother left this, he said, presenting an aged photograph. She wanted to deliver it personally, Damon explained, placing a small frame on my desk, but couldn't find the courage. It was a photograph of me at 10, absorbed in my first architectural model in the sunroom of my parents' home, a gift from my mother, Eleanor. I smiled. Naturally, grandfather detested it. Building blocks will distract him from serious studies, he'd complained, but Mom had leaned close and whispered, "Keep creating, Jules." Then she slipped me books about famous architects and structural engineering across the dinner table during family gatherings. Some people build legacies with legal briefs, she told me. You'll build yours with blueprints. I positioned the photograph beside the magazine cover on my desk. On one side, a 10-year-old boy dreams over a crude balsa wood model. On the other, a man who transformed those dreams into billions. The subsequent weeks brought successive waves of attempted reconciliation. Grandmother emailed daily, transitioning from guilt to negotiation to subtle emotional manipulation. Grandfather's firm submitted our comprehensive sustainability assessment, paid in full. Daniel Wells sent an elegant, midnight blue Tesla to my building. I donated it to a local STEM program for underprivileged youth. I maintained focus. We launched a groundbreaking new system integrating renewable materials. I acquired 3 innovative startups. My net worth quietly doubled, then tripled. But none distracted me from the date I'd marked in my calendar and heart. Mom's birthday, the first since her memorial plaque was installed in the Boston Botanical Garden. I visited alone, placing a bouquet of lilies and a laminated copy of the Technology Review beside her marker. You were right, Mom, I whispered. I built something greater than they ever imagined. I stood silently until I perceived movement behind me. Grandmother. She appeared diminished, somehow frail. Not judgmental, not immaculate, just uncertain. The lilies, she noted gently. That architectural model was Eleanor's idea. I know. She insisted she recognized something in you. I objected, but she said you possessed vision. The kind she identified with. She extended another photograph. Mom and me, both beaming over a half-constructed design. She left this for you. And a letter. I was supposed to give it to you if you ever succeeded in architecture. But I didn't believe you would. Not in construction. I unfolded the note in Mom's elegant handwriting. Julia, if you're reading this, you've already proven them wrong. I always recognized your talent. Your grandparents don't understand, the letter explained. They never comprehended that genuine success isn't about continuing traditions. It's about establishing new ones. Prove them wrong about your path. Then prove them right about one thing, that you're still their granddaughter, even if you selected a different journey. Love, Mom. I looked up at my grandmother. Really examined her for the first time in years. The perfect coiffure and pearls couldn't conceal the weariness or the weight of remorse beneath her carefully maintained dignity. I have an investor meeting in 30 minutes, I said, folding the letter carefully and placing it in my jacket pocket. But perhaps we could have lunch next week. Just us. Her eyes glistened. I'd appreciate that. It wasn't an absolution. Not yet. But perhaps it was the beginning of something new. That evening, I added 3 items to my office wall: Mom's letter, a photograph of us with our model, and between them, I framed a single page of code, the original algorithm of the system that started everything. My phone chimed. Damon, your grandfather's firm passed the assessment. Approve the client agreement? I glanced at the wall. 10-year-old me grinning over balsa wood and glue. The magazine cover. The letter that prophesied my success long before I achieved it. Add a clause. They must update the signage first. Harrington Sustainable Systems has a nice symmetry to it. Because sometimes success isn't about proving them wrong. Sometimes it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes it's about building your own bridge home. Even if it requires a $3 billion foundation to support it. If you've ever been dismissed, marginalized, or told your ambitions were insignificant, I hope my journey reminded you that quiet determination is still determination. I created something transformative when no one believed in me, not to invalidate their doubts, but to validate my vision. Share your experiences. Your pivotal moment. Or simply a word of encouragement. I read every comment. And if you're still mid-journey, here's my advice: trust your blueprint even when others can't visualize the structure. Subscribe and continue with me because we're just beginning, and I haven't finished building yet.